Alright guys, episode 2 of The Ultimate Fighter is about to get underway. I will see you guys when the show ends. Alright guys, I am back. It is the next morning and we are going to recap episode 2 of The Ultimate Fighter that aired last night. I took some notes, so if you see me looking off to the side, I have my notes right here. So, to open the show tonight, we were supposed to set up Trevor Wells versus Tamir Valiev, a 135 bantamweight fight for the second fight of the show. Instead, it is revealed that Trevor Wells has to medically scratch due to a cold sore, and that fight would have to be pushed to a later date. The fight replacing that was Cody Gibson, Team Chandler's number 4, versus Mondo Gutierrez, Team McGregor's number 1. As the second show gets underway, we finally get a chance to meet the fighters that will be fighting tonight. Starting with Cody Gibson, which he really has an interesting story to share. Cody Gibson was from Oklahoma, but was adopted a couple years into his life and moved to California. His parents were unable to have children their first 18 years of marriage before adopting Cody and his brother. After they were adopted, they were able to have 2 children, but one was born with cerebral palsy and another one without use of his brain and a lot of mental handicaps, so it really made for a touching moment in the show. While we were finding this out, Cody Gibson had a touching moment with Michael Chandler about this and both of their families, as Michael Chandler has also adopted 2 children of his own. Cody Gibson trains at the Pit, where guys like UFC Hall of Famers Chuck Liddell and BJ Penn trained at. Cody Gibson has had an 8-year hiatus from the UFC, as he is obviously a veteran being on Team Chandler, so he looks to use his experience and his really good reach advantage against Mondo in this fight. We'll get into Mondo Gutierrez, Team McGregor's number 1 backstory, as Mondo is from Illinois but moved to Michigan, Lansing, Michigan to be more specific. Mondo Gutierrez fights out of Murcielago MMA in Lansing, Michigan. Trains a lot with his brothers, so he's able to keep his family connected and strong, and it's cool that he's able to train with them. On the side, instead of working a regular job, Mondo is a barber. He goes by Mondo Cut It, and he actually got a chance to cut Connor McGregor's hair in the show as they were all partying before the fight took place. Mondo is huge on his heritage. You could see it as he was talking, and especially in making his way to the octagon. Mondo had a traditional family life, wife, kid, trades, barber, and that's what we got to know about him. We saw the moment between Cody Gibson and Michael Chandler. For Mondo and Connor McGregor, it really was all about the fight and what they expected. Connor McGregor giving Mondo really good advice on walking out, his headspace, and Mondo even said when he was asked who he wanted to fight for, he said he wanted to fight for the best southpaw ever in his eyes, as Conor McGregor was getting his haircut when he said that. So, I think that Conor McGregor wanted Mondo to control the octagon, as this was in their game plan for the fight against Cody Gibson. Something I wanted to quickly add as I'm editing this out: Roosevelt Roberts and Landon Quinones, 2 fighters on the opposite teams, get into the first beef in the UFC house, as Roosevelt Roberts just doesn't like him, doesn't like his personality. Landon's a cocky, young, up-and-coming fighter, and Roosevelt Roberts has been there before, and it's the first kind of butting of heads. They get in each other's face a little bit, and a little bit of outside beef ensues. So, cool to see that in episode number 2. And we will now get into the fight preview. So, the key to this fight, as I was going through, I thought that this would be a wrestling duel with both sides having lots of wrestling experience. Mondo, I thought, needed to cut off Gibson's reach advantage, get in tight, and land strikes or try to get him against the cage and use his wrestling to his advantage. Cody Gibson also had good wrestling, and I thought that Cody Gibson had great striking, and the fact that he's had a lot of UFC experience plays a big factor in this one. Cody Gibson has a 19-8 pro record. Obviously, the 8-year hiatus from the UFC that we talked about. But as the fight gets underway, Cody Gibson starts out first round, pushes the pace, uses great striking, and really Mondo has good defense, but Cody Gibson really pushes the pace within the first couple of minutes of this round one. Mondo was defending well, throwing some shots back, but ultimately ends up overpowered, and Cody Gibson lands a perfect flying knee and then shots on the top to get the win for Team Chandler in the middle of round number one. Team McGregor has now suffered 2 KO losses as his number 2, 155 Nate Jetterman lost to the number 3 Team Chandler's Roosevelt Roberts by KO in episode number 1. So a quick recap. We had Roosevelt Roberts over Nate Jetterman, so that's 1-0 for Team Chandler. And episode 2, and Cody Gibson, number 4, TKO over Mondo Gutierrez, 4 for Team Chandler versus 1 for Team McGregor. So we will see you guys for episode 3 next week.